If you want to check out what my top picks are for inexpensive brushes, then please keep on watching. Hello my friends, if it's your first time here, my name is Alicia. Thank you so much for stopping by. And if you are returning, well, thank you for coming again. Kinky Sweat stands for my kinky hair and sweat life. I am a fitness professional who loves everything movement and beauty. And if you want to check out what I do in between the makeups, you can head over to my Instagram. Here on my channel, you'll find product reviews, eyeshadow palettes, look videos. What else? I do have a lot of my movement content on Instagram, and I think I might be doing a lot more tutorials on that platform instead of on this. It's very tough for me to edit both beauty videos and flexibility movement videos. So just keep in mind, not forgetting about those requests, but just trying to find a happy medium in terms of time management to put both types of content on YouTube. But until then, we're gonna talk about makeup on YouTube. Many of you had asked what will be my top picks for inexpensive brushes. If you haven't been here before, hi, I love Sonia G, Wayne Goss, Wefer, Hakuhodo, Chikuhodo brushes. They are Japanese made, very expensive, and not in a lot of people's budgets. There are a lot of reasons why people won't use natural hair brushes. Ethical reasons, they feel that no matter if the brand claims they are cruelty-free, they feel that because you have natural hair fibers in a brush, you just can't be cruelty-free. They don't care how ethically those fibers are acquired. They just feel it doesn't even matter. It's animal hair. They're the devil. So that's one take on it. If you are allergic to natural hair, and even though you love it, it makes you break out, whatever allergic reaction you have to use synthetic fibers. They're just simply too expensive. One natural hair brush can be $50 or $150. It all depends on the fiber length, the density of the brush, the overall design, what types of hairs that the brush uses. So there's a lot to go into in terms of determining brushes prices. I've used synthetic brushes extensively, especially when I first started my channel. I didn't have a great handle on brush knowledge in terms of which ones are better, what natural hair brushes do versus what synthetic brushes do. Here is the very quick breakdown. Synthetic fibers are synthetic fibers. They do not come from animals, but because of that, they're not biodegradable. So even though people feel they're more ethical in that way, the fibers themselves are not great for the environment. But people are like, well, you're killing the animals for your makeup, you're evil. In Japan, they have very strict rules and regulations in regards to how these natural fibers are acquired. In terms of the overall application difference, synthetic brushes just don't apply powder products. We'll get to cream in a minute. Powder products as well as natural hair fibers do. Natural hair fibers have cuticles on the actual strand because it is a natural hair strand and distributes the powder seamlessly, smoothly, just more so than a synthetic brush would. I can attest to that because I remember when I used the few that I will present in this video. Let's say I would apply a powder contour or a powder bronzer, blush and highlighter. Some days it will turn out muddy and some days it won't. It was very unpredictable. And I would try to be very careful with my application technique, go in with very little product, start high on the cheekbone area, hollow the cheekbone. And some days it just turned out very textured and muddy on my face. When I use natural hair brushes, that never happens. It doesn't matter what type of brush I use in terms of its hair length, design, and density. With my powder products, and that's the same thing with my eyeshadow. I've never experienced better eyeshadow blending ever since when I started using Wayne Goss brushes. He really set it off in terms of not only my technique improvement, but my understanding when it comes to blending eyeshadows with natural hair brushes. Now, within the natural hair brush realm, in regards to eye brushes, there are different types of densities, different types of hairs that will determine the finish that is left behind on your eyes. Blue Squirrel, for instance, is very soft and will leave a more sheer wash of color than, let's say, a goat hair brush would. And there are different grades of goat hair. So there might be soft goat hair, medium soft goat hair, and then you have to find that happy balance between softness and stiffness because you want to pick up product, but you want it to blend out seamlessly at the same time. When it comes to cream products, however, synthetic brushes have an advantage because since they don't have cuticles on the strands because they are synthetic fibers, they're not going to absorb as much product as a natural hair brush would. So in regards to liquid foundations, cream foundations, anything cream liquid in that realm will have more success when being used with the synthetic brush because you will get more product on your face. When it comes to foundations though, I don't like a lot of foundation on my face, so that's why I insist on using a sponge or natural hairbrush anyway. But for those who want more coverage, synthetic brushes are going to be your best bet. If you love to use cream contour or even a cream bronzer, synthetic brushes, those different size kabuki brushes will really beautifully blend in that cream product into the skin. When it comes to eyeshadow, synthetic brushes are just not my favorite because they are so soft, they don't pick up enough product and they don't blend it well on my eyes. I remember I had trouble on the outer corner or outer V of my eye when I tried to put in an intense shade there, and no matter the synthetic brush that I would use, the size, the length of brush, it would just always turn out muddy and patchy. But ever since I started using natural hair brushes, I rarely see that problem unless I'm using just bad eyeshadow. But I'm not going to encounter that problem if I use, let's say, Viseart, Natasha Denona, Pat McGrath, even ColourPop. ColourPop, I'm fine with my natural hair brushes, but synthetic, I have a couple of issues. However, if I'm using, let's say, my Charlotte Tilbury Mesmerize pots with the cream moussey formula, synthetic brushes are great because they're not going to absorb that product. They're going to keep it on the bristles and distribute it, deposit it on the lid effectively, and you're going to get the most color payoff in that way when using synthetic fibers. I collected my favorite inexpensive brushes from my collection. Disclaimer, I haven't used these brushes in a while. I've used them on and off just to remind myself of, hey, I like this brush for that reason. I haven't used the eye brushes in a minute, but I remember when I did, and I distinctly made a mental note to say, I'm going to present this as a favorite because I really love how this brush blends in through my crease and all that stuff. So let's get started with the complexion, shall we? Now, if we're going in with foundation first, I have two here. This is from Unit, and Beautylift is very nice to send these to me upon the Unit launch a couple of months ago. They are synthetic fibers. I don't know if these are made in the USA. I try to find that answer on the Beautylish website. I could email Claire to ask because sometimes a lot of these synthetic brushes are made in China. I will make sure to put that information down below in the description bar once I get that answer. These are two different shaped brushes. You have the 101, which is a wedged flat top kabuki brush that you could use to press in your foundation with or even apply your cream contour with. And this is the 109 brush. It is more curved and I feel really beautifully ideal for contour because it is a little smaller than the 101. So I feel if you wanted to get a more precise application of contour cream product here, you could use the 109. If you wanted to buff down some cream blush, you could use this brush as well. You could use probably the edge of this for cream contour on the nose bridge, but I rather enjoy these brushes. They're very soft, very flexible. I think effective if you love to use brushes to apply your foundation with. I will quickly mention, because I don't have it here, Sigma brushes make wonderful foundation kabuki brushes. They have like patented designs that are exclusive to them and really fun, interesting shapes that I feel are very innovative for foundation application to get in around the eyes, around the nostrils. If you want to check those out, those are relatively inexpensive. As for these, the 109 is $9 and the 101 is $12. Not too bad. If you don't have any brushes and you just want to start off, I think this is a great buy. We move on to loose powder. I used to use this brush all the time. This was my go-to for a while. It is the Luxie 520 Tapered powder brush. This came in their like dream catcher, something that you got the brush holder and the brushes with this periwinkle shade. It's synthetic, it's soft, and it's funny, I used to think this was crazy soft when I used it years ago. But now when I use my natural hair brushes, this kind of feels like a little stabby, which is crazy to me right now. The 520 retails for $24, so I wouldn't say it's super inexpensive, but it's not crazy expensive either. It sits right in the middle. Even still, I think this is a great brush to apply your loose powder with, even bronzer, dare I say, because it is tapered, so this edge will fit really nicely into the hollows of your cheeks. You could also use this to pat down a blush, a very light wash color of blush, buffing in your finishing powder. So this is very multi-purpose, and I prefer tapered brushes over dome shaped ones. I don't know why, I just love the shape of it, just makes it more multifunctional in that way for me. Next up is bronzer. This was a special edition brush that I got from the Jasmine collection when they collabed with the Disney brand. But they do have this brush. I didn't find it individually sold on Luxie Beauty, but they do have it in a set, not in the Jasmine design, but just in the standard white handle. This is the number 518. This was like $40 something. I'm assuming the regular brush would be around the $30 mark. It is bigger than the tapered brush. You'll see here. I like this for bronzer because it's pinched, but it's not completely flat. You see that there's a little bit of taper, not as much as the Powder 520, but just a little bit, because then I could fit that edge right into the hollows of my cheek and apply bronzer in that way. I use this a ton to apply bronzer. If you don't want to use bronzer, you can use it for loose powder application, finishing. I particularly love this bronzer, so this is my inexpensive brush pick for bronzer application. Concealer, I have a couple. If not a brush, I will use a sponge. But if I insisted on using a brush, I would go with my Luxie 120. This is the detail round blender. This retails for $12, not too bad. If I wanted a really precise application of concealer, I would use this buffer brush to hit right under the eye, near the inner corner of the nose and eye. I also use to blend out my concealer on my lid before I started my eyeshadow looks. And overall, if you just needed a more precise application of concealer on blemishes on smaller parts of your face, I will hit around the nostril area, which I get very red. And sometimes if my foundation just didn't hit that area on my face, I will use this small blender. Blemishes to apply concealer on those areas, and it just buffs out the edges really nice. And again, it's synthetic, so ideal for cream and liquid products in terms of those steps for your complexion routine. I love the size of it. I think it's multifunctional. If you want to use this to apply contour, cream or liquid, or even down the sides of your nose. The other brush I like to use for my concealer is the COLOURPOP brush. This is named the small fluff brush. It is right now $6 because they're having another sale. It originally retails for $8. Oh, to quickly backtrack, I think Luxie brushes are made in the US. I try to find that information on their website as well. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm such a bad YouTuber. I like to use this to blend out my under eye concealer. You could also use this to blend out your cream contour. You could use this to buff out any cream blush. This is all synthetic fibers, as I feel all COLOURPOP brushes are, from their complexion brushes to their eye brushes. I like it. It's not too big, not too small. It has really great movement. It depends on the concealer that I'm using. If I want more color impact, more coverage, I will use a sponge. Sometimes this could leave streaks, and you really have to work it into the skin so the concealer blends smoothly. But I still really like it just for a light application of concealer for those no makeup days that you just want to go really light with the coverage, just to even out the tone under the eyes so it doesn't look super tired. This is what I really like it for. And again, you could use this also, why not, for highlighter, contour, as I mentioned before, or any of those parts of the face that need a smaller brush to blend out those products with. We're done with the complexion. Let's move into eyes, which I think we're most interested in. The majority of these brushes are from Zoeva. If there was one inexpensive brand that I would immediately suggest to anyone who asks, is Zoeva. I think they make amazing brushes. Some of these are units, but most of these are from Zoeva, and I will have to start with my favorite blending brush. This is the 228 Luxe Crease brush. It is synthetic and natural hair. It's a hybrid, very soft, picks up product well, and blends it out well. I think this is a phenomenal brush, and it retails for $12. Zoeva brushes are made in China. FYI, I'm sure there are a lot of synthetic brushes that are not made in China but here in the States, but I don't have a lot of synthetic brushes. I just stopped buying them a long time ago because once I experienced and discovered natural hair brushes and my makeup was just looking better, I just never went back. However, if you don't have a problem buying a tool made in China, I highly recommend, again, the Zoeva. It says natural, synthetic, and the natural is treated goat hair, which makes sense because despite the fact that it's synthetic and natural, it's still very soft. And I really particularly love the shape of this blender. It just beautifully blends out my transition shades smoothly. It doesn't take a lot of work. I was actually quite surprised at the time after using so many Wayne and Sonia brushes that I went back to this just to experiment. Really nice. Next one is again from Zoeva. This is the 227 Luxe Soft Definer. I know these are so dirty. I didn't wash them for this video because I'm sorry. It's a pinched brush that you could use to blend, to apply shadow across the lid. I particularly love this to apply my more intense shade on the outer V and then pull it through the crease. You could also use this to blend out your lower lash line if you like that really hazy, smoky lower lash line. Again, simple brush. This is also $12, natural and synthetic, easy to use, and I think you'll be very successful in using it with your eyeshadow. Next up, I use this brush a lot. This is again the Zoeva 232 Luxe Classic Shader, again hybrid of natural and synthetic fibers. I'll show right away. The next one is the 234. Now the difference is that one is significantly smaller than the other. This is more for precise lid application of color. This has a little more fluff to it, which for me means not only can you use it to apply a metallic shade on the lid, but you could also use it for precise crease cutouts or defining precisely throughout the crease, or even going under the lower lash line. This is a great brush, and it just gets product on the lid fast because of its bigger size. So if you just like to go in with that one metallic shade, pull it across the lid, and then turn the brush on its side to fluff out the edges, you could use that brush with that application technique. Or if you need a more precise application of metallic shade or even a matte shade on your lid, this is again the 234 Luxe Smoky Shader. You can use this, pull it right under the lash line, even on the inner third of the lid if you want to put another color there. So I used to use these a lot, you know, because I would list these in my description box in my older videos. Next up we have from Zoeva is the 225 Luxe Eye Blender. This is more of a dome shaped brush. I rarely use this because I'd rather use a tapered crease brush for my outer V intensity, but you could use this to carve out your very deep shade. Because of its dome shape, it'll be very precise in placing that color there. You could also use it to pull it through the crease. If you have small hooded eyes, people really love this to blend out that shadow on the part of the lid. Again, no brainer, lower lash line. A very hefty helping of inner corner highlight, because this is not the smallest pencil brush you can use, but you can still put it here on the inner corner, but it'll just be, you know, a lot of shadow at once. Down the bridge of the nose, Cupid's bow area, you can even use this to brush down your contour or bronzer down the bridge of the nose. Even here, brow arch, which obviously you can use this brush with, which we just showed here. The again 234 brow bone highlights. I found the best way to use this brush is to pat it down first, that deep shade, and then go in, whether it will be with, what is it here, the 228 Luxe Crease or the 227 Soft Definer. And the last two here I have from Units again. This is the 118 pencil brush, very soft. This is all synthetic fibers, by the way, as opposed to Zoeva, which is half synthetic, half natural. I love this point, ideal for inner corner highlight, really nice for precise crease application, especially if you have smaller eyes. Even if you have big eyes, you could use this pointed pencil brush to just blend out that really cut crease defining shade, or you could use it lower lash line, what have you. Very soft for a synthetic brush, I have to say. And that's what a lot of the comments were on the Beautylish reviews as well. Despite it being inexpensive and synthetic, it's quite soft. Lastly, we have the Unit 121, which is a blending crease brush. Very soft, very flexible. But again, I find just not as successful. I find the 228 is a better blending brush than the Unit because again, it's half natural, half synthetic, whereas the Unit is all synthetic. I feel the best method to use synthetic brushes for as it pertains to eye looks is the pat down method, where you get a really light base like the Anastasia Beverly Hills eye primer or even like the P. Louise primer in a light shade, and you use synthetic brushes to pack down really bright color on first, and then you take the synthetic brush and blend the edges. Whereas I feel natural hair brushes are ideal for when you blend right from the get-go. Like there's no packing in bright color. It's taking really beautiful soft shades like Viseart colors, shadows for instance, and the blend is just a beautiful diffusement of color across the lid. And that's how I like to apply my eyeshadow, because one of you had mentioned in my Anastasia review that those pigments are best packed in, and you're absolutely right. I agree. When it comes to pigments, not necessarily eyeshadows, it's best to pack them in so you can get that full color richness and payoff, and then you blend out from darkest to lightest. I personally just love to blend. I don't like packing in color and then blending from there. That's just a different eye look, eye aesthetic altogether. I just love to blend out shadow, as I love for it to look diffused and soft on the lids. For me, that is best achieved with the natural hair brush. But again, if you're going for those high impact, color rich, rainbow types of looks, get yourself like a synthetic, not necessarily a blender brush, but more like a shader brush or something that's just more tightly packed and smaller than this, to get the color on the lid first, pack it in, and then you use a soft synthetic brush to blend out the edges. Because blending out edges, I feel doesn't require the same blending caliber like blending out shadow throughout the crease. I feel like it's just a different technique altogether, and you're packing on so much color that you don't necessarily have to worry about diffusing edges. You just have to worry about diffusing that edge, and then you're gonna put in another block of color and diffuse that edge. I could be totally wrong, but for instance, I use all natural brushes for this eye look today. I use the Viseart Petite Pro in Soleil. It's not crazy high impact color, but that's what I like. I like a softer wash of color. I like shadows that just blend and move and groove. I would use synthetic eye brushes for pigments and just high color rich looks that require that specific technique of application. Those are my picks for inexpensive brushes, as again, many of you had asked what I would suggest to buy for an inexpensive brush. There are inexpensive natural hair brushes. I would recommend Hakuhodo. I know they're not the cheapest of the cheapest, but they're definitely a little cheaper than Wayne and Sonia. Check out their website. I will quickly look at my collection and just put those suggestions down below. Check out the price if it's within your budget. If you can maybe dish out 20 bucks for a blender brush from Hakuhodo, it'll be well worth your while. Wash it once a month and it will last you a long time. Of course, if you are comfortable using natural hair brushes. I think Luxie makes great eye brushes and they're all synthetic. I know Zoeva is natural and synthetic. If you want all synthetic across the board, I will look into Luxie Beauty like I mentioned with their complexion brushes. ColourPop has eye brushes as well. I can't attest to how good they are, but they are all synthetic. But I'm quite surprised because their makeup is made in the USA. Maybe just the handle came from China, but these were still manufactured in the US. Maybe that's the case and not the whole brush being manufactured in China. I think Anastasia Beverly Hills might have some synthetic eye brushes that you could look into. I'm terribly sorry that I'm not an expert on synthetic brushes simply because I just don't use them very much, and I couldn't tell you what in my opinion, what the best synthetic eye or complexion brushes are. But I can say these are my picks for inexpensive brushes from complexion to eye application. And hopefully that just kind of helped steer you in the right direction in giving you a couple of more brands to shop from if, again, you can't afford the Sonia and the Wayne, or you just don't care to buy those brands. Perhaps these will be a good match. Perhaps these would be a good match for you. And if you have these brushes already, let me know what your experience has been. More importantly, friends, let us know what your suggestions are for inexpensive synthetic or natural hair brushes when it comes to blending, packing on your lid color, bronzer, highlight, what any of those categories, share down below. Without a doubt, we would appreciate your suggestions and just your input as to what other choices we have in terms of buying inexpensive makeup brushes. And with that said, friends, that is a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And until then, I'll see you on here again with another review, multi-look video, favorites list, or get ready with me. Take care, and I'll see you again soon.